Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time and spending it here with us on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux with the Banner Press, welcoming you to this week's edition of the program, and joined this week by fellow journalist Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, good to have you here.
Good to be here as always, and looking forward to going through this week's paper. I have to admit, Owen, this one, I'm curious if the stories that we're going to talk about this week, specifically on the front page and on page 2, are going to get some talk going around in town about those particular subjects. But
heck yeah.
Yeah.
If not already. And that's why we always appreciate when you do pick up a copy of the Banner Press to get the perspective of what is happening in your community. Always appreciative of that type of support. And we're able to share some very pertinent and important stories directly related to the community of Neepawa. And as Casper said, right on the front page, we've got one in terms of some planned upgrades on some important sections of Neepawa that might be put in peril because of circumstances beyond our own control. Last week, it was announced that the province of Manitoba was going to be putting $9.7 million towards a much-needed, if you've driven down on 18th Street in Brandon, you know it's much needed, a much-needed upgrade to that street. I lived there for about 10 or 15 years. I lived there back when the streets were good and very nice. And that's not like that anymore in Brandon. And they needed to put some money in, $9.7 million, into the upgrades on 18th Street because it was very much necessary. Unfortunately, that announcement is having some residual impact on Neepawa and its roads. If you're a consistent and loyal reader of the Banner Press, you will perhaps remember that earlier in the spring it was announced that two sections of road, one over on Mill Street, just by the new nurses' learning facility, and over on Mountain, just in front of the old Banner and Press building actually, those two blocks were going to be completely repaved because they do definitely need it. And as is the choice and decision of contracted companies that do that type of work, the small towns are usually on the back burner. It's the big projects that get done in the early portion of the summer and into the height of summer. And come the fall, you know, all those little projects, all these teeny weeny little projects from these little communities finally get some attention. And as much as we love Neepawa and as much as Neepawa has grown, we're still a teeny tiny town for the most part. And unfortunately, when $9.7 million comes about and a big project in Brandon comes about, that means that project, that big ticket item, is most likely what the contractors are going to be paying attention to. And that's the story. After all that big preamble, that's what the front page story is. Brandon's road build, Brandon's road repairs are putting ours in peril because the companies are going to focus on the bigger project. They're going to focus on the much more expensive project, as they should if they're a smart business. But it's disappointing to see that Neepawa might not get the attention that we had been hoping for. If you've been in Neepawa and you've driven on the roads, you know that they're not the best right now. Casper, you can attest to that too, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, there's a number of spots that are not the best. Definitely the portion just going from town office sort of area past the old Banner building in particular is quite the ride. I know they've done some patching there, thankfully, though. In the meantime, they did that actually while we were working on this week's paper, so that was good to see, at least that they're getting some stuff done that way to help with that. But yeah, definitely some spots around town, including that section I mentioned that really could use some attention and would have gotten attention to a different degree if we were able to still go forward with this, which obviously we're not able to now. So yeah, it is disappointing, but definitely assuring at least that it's getting patched in some shape or form in the meantime.
That's right. If you want to get more specific details, that's why you always got to remember, pick up a copy of the Banner and Press in Neepawa or in 29 other surrounding communities throughout Western Manitoba. We deliver physical copies of the paper to 30 different locations, 30 different communities, over 7,000 copies. And if you're not able to get a physical representation of the Banner and Press, always remember, it goes live on our website, mywestman.ca, every Friday morning at about 9 a.m. Central Time. So if you can't get a copy in your hand, you can still get it on your laptop or your computer or your home computer. I wonder, do people still have home computers, those big boxes from the 90s? Do you know, I know that's before your time, but there used to be these big monstrosities, and you'd have to wear a weight belt to move your monitor. It was a whole production, Casper.
Well, not quite to that extent, but some people do still have home computers in a sense. Typically more so used for gaming. People go for the high end, but there's still something kind of out there. I do remember though, actually, we did used to have one when I was growing up. It was more of a smaller size. It was about maybe just slightly bigger than one of those old like single box TVs, a monitor about that size that we used to use and had dial-up and everything. It was kind of an experience to use when I was growing up, but I digress.
Oh man, now the technology has gotten so good. And you can get the newspaper in all those technologies as well, not just on laptops or computers, but on your tablets and on your phone as well. If you check it out on mywestman.ca. That was a good runaround there. Nice little segue. Full circle, came around full circle. And it comes around full circle as well in terms of the content within this week's paper. If you turn to page 2, you're going to see a similar type story about some upgrades that were very much needed and necessary for the town of Neepawa, but they have, for one reason or another, been delayed. Now, I know we all like to play the blame game, where it's like, oh, government. The government is why the road is the way it is. The government is why the streets the way they are. The government's the reason the lights the way they are. This time we can't blame the town of Neepawa. We can't blame the town of Neepawa that Brandon is taking a priority over us in terms of the roads. It's just an unfortunate reality. And we can't blame the town of Neepawa because the new lights that were put up by Manitoba Hydro still aren't, as of this moment, still aren't lighting up. That falls into the lap of Manitoba Hydro. They installed about a dozen new lights on Hamilton and a small portion of Mountain as well. In fact, right in front of the Banner and Press building, as it were. But they're not operational yet. And we decided we were going to give them a week to get their stuff together, to get it figured out. And the lights still weren't operational. And then came around 10 days and we started thinking to ourselves, these are very pretty lights in the daytime, when you can see them. But at night, they're not actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we got in touch with Manitoba Hydro and we asked, hey guys, what's up? And they did fortunately give us an answer. And that answer is September 20th, that they should be up and operational. So I guess that's a positive. The responsibility of installing the lights and making sure they work, it all falls on Manitoba Hydro. Town of Neepawa, in essence, has nothing to do with this project as it goes on. So if you were giving calls to the town wondering, hey, what's up with the lights? They're as much in the dark as you were, literally and figuratively. As far as I know, they weren't even given a heads up that the lights were going to be installed. I mean, thanks Manitoba Hydro, appreciate the insight on that. But that's bureaucracy bull stuff. Went PG-13 there. We're on television here, so that's bureaucracy bull stuff that goes on there between people who wear ties and have a better pay rate than I do. So I'll let them take care of that. It's just nice that it's actually going to get done, even though it's taking Casper a whole heck of a lot longer than we thought it would.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, September 13th, the day that we're recording this. So it's going to be another 7 days, hopefully just 7 days, before they come on again. I mean, some people might have seen as well, there is a couple lights in town for the sections they're working on that don't have the wiring completely installed yet. There's one just beside the current Neepawa Banner Press building, and then just across from the United Anglican Church there at what's going to be the new Rotors location, there's a light there that also has cords out. And I mean, yeah, it was supposed to be, if I remember correctly, couple days project. I think it was anticipated to be first in
yes,
fairly early kind of August, and then things didn't happen. It's just like, okay, I guess it must have gotten pushed back, and then it's just like, okay, it's gonna take like week or two, and took a while to see things get rolling, and then things got rolling. It's just like, okay, making some good progress, I think, and then it's just like, wait,
where'd everybody go?
Where did everyone go? It's like, okay, all right. And then, it's been a while now, of course, and no lights coming on yet. And that is quite a while to go without lights on those sections. I mean, any section, you'd want good lighting to be present. I mean, it's a safety thing, for people out walking, if you're driving, etc. Just all of that sort of different stuff. Well, and I mean, you want your lights to be functional, right?
That's true. Well, you can't walk in those sections right now. That's the reality of it. But if you did want to go walking, fortunately, we have a campaign that's going to be coming up this weekend that's going to assist you in that, in terms of you want to get out and about and do some walking, and you can do it for a very good cause. And that story is on page 2 as well, and that story is something Casper has that's you're going to be able to share with us right now.
Definitely, yes. So this is actually the fifth annual year for this walking campaign, the Walk With Us campaign, happening this Sunday, one of the many events actually happening this Sunday. This one will be taking place at the Langford Walking Trails.
Sorry, got to cut you off here.
Yes.
I'm not doing ventriloquism. It's Casper's. There we go.
There we go.
Casper's over here. Hey, look, I know I got a new haircut and all, but so does Casper. All right, so.
So it will be at the Langford Walking Trails, and happening at 3 p.m. that day, September 15th. And traditionally, it has raised funds for the Manitoba Down Syndrome Society, because that is really the core of the initiative, the event, is to support families that have Down syndrome, or children with Down syndrome. And this year, they're switching it up a little bit. It's organized by the Cox family, so if you're aware, Will and Brandy's son, Logan, was born with Down syndrome 5 years ago, which is why they organized this. And they got talking, they're like, eventually Logan is going to be at Touchwood Park. And they just did their accessible playground project, which, fantastic project, just that aside. And this would be a great way to not only support part of his future, but to also give back to the community. They're like, yes, we want to switch up this year and have funds donated to the Touchwood Park Association to support the playground project, because it was partially funded, and then they got enough funding to install it and all of that. And I think they do still have to do some work on it. I haven't swum by there recently, but I know they still have some funding to do for that. They're going to be doing that this year, and much like previous years, everybody's welcome to come, participate if they want to, donate if they want to, and just enjoy a nice evening out, enjoying the trails, enjoying fresh air, and get treated to a free barbecue as well, which is always a nice bonus after you're done doing some exercise.
That is nice. And it's nice that they see something beyond themselves and want to help out in this way. A local organization such as Touchwood that has done so much good and so much positivity So wonderful to see that. And if you want to be able to help out in some small way, every little bit, every little step helps. And this is an example of literally every little step you're taking is going to help out locally. So if you do get an opportunity, we do hope that you will support it. Having said that, though, we do understand that it's kind of an interesting little situation we have happening. This is happening, of course, on Sunday. We have so much to talk about what is happening this Sunday. Oh my Lord. And we're going to do that during this show, and we're sure as heck going to be doing it at the next show as well, because we've also got the Terry Fox run, which is occurring on Sunday. We also have Neepawa High School football team has their home opener happening at the exact same time on Sunday. So the field and the walking path is going to be quite jam-packed coming up on Sunday. And we also have another event just a little ways down the road. You're going to be pulling a little bit double duty, Casper, because you're going to be covering Walk With Us, and you're also going to be covering this event that's going to be happening over at Arts Forward.
Certainly am. So as Owen mentioned, there is also an event at Arts Forward there. And again, similar times. We're not quite sure what was in the water for this week, but everything's sort of happening, coinciding with each other. This event, Neepawa's Got Pride, organized by the Neepawa Area Pride Group, is going to be taking place on the Arts Forward grounds from 1 to 4 p.m. First time ever event, so I hope it gets a good reception, is received really well. And I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun. There's going to be food. Everyone loves food. Some activities for kids and, well, those young at heart, arts and crafts, that sort of thing. I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm pretty excited to see this get going in our town.
My God, you're going to be well fed with the Walk With Us and at the Pride event. They both got events in terms of some food there. And again, it's nice to see. Walk With Us, as you said, is only about 4 or 5 years old. The Pride event, this is the inaugural Pride event. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to see the organization coming out. That wasn't meant as a sort of a play on words. It was just, showcasing themselves in such a way in a community such as ours. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to see that as well. So if you're supportive, I definitely hope you'll go out to those events, both of those events. If you're not able to, though, it is understandable for the pure, simple reality of everything's going on at the same time. We have Walk With Us occurring, we have the Pride event occurring. At that exact same time, I'm going to be over at the Cenotaph covering an event, the kickstart, as it were, of National Legion Week. And our own local Legion branch is going to be doing some special ceremonies as part of it, a commemoration over at the Cenotaph, if I remember off the top of my head, in and around 1 o'clock on Sunday. So if you have a little bit of time to spare in between events, head on down there and check it out for yourself. And that's just part of a big bunch of things that our local Legion is going to be doing. We are very appreciative. Representation with our local Legion sent us a submitted article that you can find on page 7 of this week's edition, celebrating National Legion Week in Neepawa. They go over some of the history in Neepawa of the Legion, some of the events and things that they've done through the years, and some of the plans they have moving ahead. They very much want to really sort of turn this into something that we can all celebrate. There's too many people that think when you look at Legion, you think you have to be in some sort of military connection, either a former representative of a military or a family member of all that. And you shouldn't feel that way. That's not the case anymore. That's not what the Legion is about anymore. The Legion does have that within its roots, but it's more about community. And that's something we all have within ourselves. Whether we had members, family who were a part of the military, or if we were a part of the military ourselves. It's not about that anymore. It's branched out, it's expanded its horizons, which you have to do, I think, in order to be able to survive and to thrive. So it's wonderful to see that the Legion is doing that. So if you get the chance, head on down. The cadets will be laying the wreath at the Cenotaph on Sunday the 15th. They're also on Friday, I believe, going to be doing a street dance and some live music just right in front of the Legion between 7 and 11. So That's wonderful to see that going on. I'm going to be covering that as well as the Terry Fox run. As soon as I'm done with the Legion festivities, I'm going to be beelining it over to the track to cover the Terry Fox event. And fortunately, that's happening over there because I can take a few steps over and cover the Neepawa Tigers football team as they have their home opener at that exact same moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events, 5 in total, all happening at the exact same time. 5 significant, intriguing, interesting events, all happening at the same time. Only 2 of them have food. How did you manage to get the food ones, now that I think about it? I like food. What the hell? What
Maybe
the
you'll
heck?
have to steal a little sneak in there and grab a plate. I mean, there's a lot of good food to go around.
Man, I really got hosed on this one this year. All right, next year I'll have it figured out, I swear. And that's why it's important for you as well to come back and check out next week's edition of The Story Behind the Story and next week's edition of the Neepawa Banner Press, because we're going to have a bunch of pictures and a bunch of information from all these significant, important local events, because that's what we're all about. We're about local, being able to cover the stories for you that for the most part you're not going to get from the Winnipeg Sun or the Winnipeg Free Press or the Brandon Sun or any of the radio stations. Do the radio stations even do news anymore? I don't think they do.
You know, that's a good question. I haven't listened to the radio in quite a while. I mean, I flicked it on like once or twice in the past year in my car for like couple minutes just to go to work or whatever if I didn't have anything I wanted to listen to. But yeah, I really don't know. If I may make an aside really quick before we get moving on to our next story, a little behind the scenes here with what we talked about there with all the events going on this weekend. We were in the office. I forget what we were doing. I think just going over, things that were coming up. And I don't remember exactly how it went down, but it was more or less like this. Owen mentioned that there was a game happening this weekend, and I was like going through all these other events in my head. These are all happening on Sunday. I got this feeling in my gut. I was like, that one's gonna be on Sunday too, isn't it? Just in my head, I thought that. And not like a minute or two later, Owen was pretty much just like, damn it, it's also on Sunday.
Although that's not the phrasing I used.
No.
No, the words I used were, again, something that I can't, for the most part, put on, okay, well, maybe I can. My apologies to the, Canadian standards practices, but can you say rat bastards on television? Because that's the thing, pardon my language, but the first thing after I looked it up and saw the schedule is like, you rat bastards. My apologies for all those out there, for using that coarse language. But from time to time, people are rat bastards, and you have to call them as you see them. So, but again, it's one of those things of that's the reality of this job. It's not always a 9 to 5. Sometimes it's a 9 to 9. Sometimes it's a 1 to 3. Sometimes it's a Tuesday to Sunday, and that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But with a job like this, it's still, there's no heavy lifting involved. And any morning you can wake up, go to the bathroom, look yourself in the mirror, and look forward to your day. That's a job you keep. I've had jobs where I've gotten up, I've looked myself in the eye and said, another day. And that's not the way to go. That's not the way to live. So to have a job where you get up and you look forward to your day, I mean, that's pretty sweet. And even though we do from time to time get a little frustrated with the whole circumstances and the situation, it's still a pretty good deal, all in all. So again, I went off on a little slight tirade there as well. But that actually kind of segues strangely nicely into our next story, because this is an individual who knew what they wanted to do with their lives, who knew what job, what career they wanted to do, and pursued it, and has been able to do it, and has been able to come back home to do it. I had an opportunity earlier this week to speak with a new barber in our community, Cole Farquhar. If I mispronounced the last name, Cole, I'm sorry off the top of my head. He was a former student here in Neepawa, went down to Brandon, was able to get his education as a barber, a stylist and all that, and has started his own business. He's established himself. He's got his own chair over at Venus, and he set up an old style barber shop, as it were, set up over there where you can get a straight shave, where you can get an old style cut. And when I say an old style barber, but with some of the new styles that are out there that all the kids are into, you know, as opposed to me, give me the number 2 down the sides and, you know, try and salvage the top. That's what I tell my barber, and fortunately they're able to do it each and every time. But yeah, he's really looking forward to establishing himself back in his own hometown. He spent the last few years establishing his trade and learning his craft in Brandon. So for him to be able to come back to his hometown like that, he's really looking forward to it. So this is one of those feature stories. I hope you'll take a few minutes. It's that young person does good type thing. And it's great to see that somebody's come and saw the value of what it means to be able to live in their own community in a small town like Neepawa and to come back to it. So I'm really happy to be able to share that story with you this week. There's so much more we could talk to you about, but there's only a few minutes left, so we got to sort of do a little bullets, sort of really just quick off the pace there. We got some sports-related stuff. The Sunflower Golf Classic recently occurred at the Neepawa Golf and Country Club, and it was a Stableford setup they got. It's a point system. You can find out the more specific details in the article. There was a pair of golfers from Portage. They were able to win this year's event. They've been very successful, actually. They've been, the last 4 years, they've come out to the Sunflower. They've won it on 2 separate occasions, come close to winning it on 2 separate occasions on top of that. So congratulations to them. You can find that story in this week's edition of the paper. As well, Ken Waddell was able to track down some information on the Burton family and a little cenotaph thing that they set up as a part of a very special anniversary, their family anniversary, out in the Kelwood area. So you can find that on page 20 of this week's paper. So much more we could talk about though, but that's always why you got to pick up a copy of the paper. You got to find a physical version of it in one of 30 different communities throughout Western Manitoba or on mywestman.ca. Now, we only got a minute or 2 left, Casper. Is there anything else you want to put a spotlight on before we go?
Actually, yeah, I guess one thing I could highlight is I actually did find a good bit of information there on page 3 on one of the lawn-standing buildings within our community. We have talked a bit about it before with the mill lifestyle transitioning into the location from its time, but on page 3 there in the looking back section, you can get some more background on stores that were in there previously. One of the prior names for it, the B.R. Hamilton store, just up from us on the corner there. So definitely take a look at that if you're interested. There's a neat little photo there that kind of seems to be a mixture of photography and hand drawing, I guess, to showcase how it looked exactly before when it was built. Didn't really have details on that in the cut line, but definitely interesting to look at.
Most definitely. A little bit of everything in this week's edition of the Banner Press. A little bit of the old, a little bit of the new. That's why it's always important for you to pick up a copy of the paper anywhere in Neepawa or surrounding areas, or check it out on mywestman.ca. And if you ever have any story suggestions for us, or pictures from events that you want to put into the paper, that's always appreciated. You can send all that information to us over at news@neepawabanner.com. If you have a story suggestion, if you have a story submission, or if you have pictures, news@neepawabanner.com. And if you have any suggestions for us as well, always, we appreciate your time. Give us a call at 476-3401. Maybe not during Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, because it gets hectic as hell. Well, hectic as heck for us during those days. But any time is fine. We'll figure it out. So once again, for Casper, I am Eoin. We are so glad you've taken a half hour of your time and spent it here with us on The Story Behind the Stories. Have another great week.